Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios here in beautiful New Jersey and beautiful South Jersey. There's no such thing as North Jersey. It's just beautiful New Jersey and beautiful South Jersey. As the Devils,
I second that. That's fine.
All right, and the Devils, they're going on right now, and I apologize to the listeners. I said we were going to debut our new bumper music for the State of the Fan Address, but I figured let's debut that for next week when we're not doing these in-game podcasts, because I want to get everybody's full attention on that. Nick Villano. I'm your host, Sam Wu, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. This is State of Fan Address, presented by pucksandpitchforks.com. All right, got that out of the way, but the real truth, Nick, is I forgot to load the bumper into the computer, so that's my excuses. Oh, we're pushing it off for next week, but really, I forgot.
It wouldn't be the first time we lied on this podcast.
Yeah.
I've been promising the 50 greatest Devils. I just stopped promising up in September because I knew it was going to take me longer than I thought. But that's okay, Sam, because Devils fans got to be excited right now. I looked on the live stream. You know, we got over 20 just on Twitter alone, just watching live. So, you know, people are excited to watch this game. People are excited to watch what's going on with the Devils. And, you know, right now I'm not going to do a play-by-play because, you know, the people who download this tomorrow morning are going to love that. But right now they're up 2-0. Nico scored a birthday goal. We love a birthday goal. So he scored on the power play. So that's huge for the Devils.
Yeah.
And, you know, the title of this podcast, New Year, New Devils. And, you know what, Sam, I'm just going to get right into what we were talking about off air. Because I got a theory on this team. I don't think that this team can be the team from November. I don't think any team could be what the Devils were in November. They played with such pace that is not sustainable on a night-to-night basis. And when one team found a hole in it, and I think that team was Nashville.
Yes. Not Toronto, but Nashville. Yes,
yeah,
I agree.
Toronto, I mean, they found a hole, and it was called, you know, referees. No, when the Devils played Nashville, it was clear that there was something different, and it knocked them off their game. They kind of realized that they can't just outpace everybody. And I think that when you try to outpace everyone, that weighs on a team. That weighs on a team's the focus is so hyper on every play, and you can't ever coast because the other team has just been waiting for an opportunities for so long that they want to, you know, every opportunity they get, they want to make the most of it. And on top of that, it's tiring to do that. I am a West Virginia basketball fan. I went to West Virginia University, and, you know, I was big into hockey there, but West Virginia basketball is huge. Bob Huggins, all that. Bob Huggins used to love playing with the full court press. And he was one of the only coaches to do it all season, especially of the Division I coaches. Like, that's a very niche product that a lot of, like, the Division II and lower try to do against the big guns, just to even the playing field a little bit. But Bob Huggins used to do it every single game. And they would beat the superstar teams like Kansas and Baylor and those types of teams, Texas when they're really good, Oklahoma when they had Trae Young and all that. But the problem with the press is there's no one who has that kind of endurance. And you can do it for a few games. You can do it for half a season. You do it the West Virginia was pretty good with it for 3/4 of the season. Mm-hmm. But eventually it just wears you down. And then you're a step behind for the rest of the season. Whether that's the final quarter of the season, but that final quarter of the season contains, you know, in basketball, the NCAA tournament, and this will be the playoffs. In the Devils' case, just because they're playing basically on, 3 to 4 times a week, I just think the style of play is just inducive to just kind of you eventually have to take a step back and you kind of have to play your spots. And I don't know if they're doing that just yet. You know what I mean? Like, even this game, they're up 2-0. The second period's just about over. and they're still. I feel like the pace is still in Detroit's favor, right? And we've been seeing that a lot. We saw it in the Carolina game. The pace is in Carolina's favor. Devils got a point, which was huge. I think that's a huge boost to get that shootout lost against the best team in the division by far, and to kind of put a little chink in the armor for them when they were on such a ridiculous win streak. Obviously, the Rangers, got the last laugh and they beat them last night, but I think that it's just a style of play that was unsustainable. And I told you, the offensive style reminds me a lot of the 2012 Peter DeBoer team, and that was sustainable because they didn't really unveil it until the playoffs. Like, they changed up their style of play like a lot. Like, they were very ISO with Kovalchuk and Parise during that season. And they really started superhuman when it comes to that. But it's the Tatars and the Zetterlands and the especially the Holtzes and the those other players who aren't built like that. They have other skills. They can be very useful in different systems, but this one is just, it had an expiration date for that style, for that dominance. And I think that the Devils need to kind of look at it and be like, maybe it is time for new year, new me. Let me change it up a little bit. Let me figure out what kind of a pace will work.
Well, Nick, that was a very good explanation, and taking some years past of other Devils, like the 2012 team under DeBoer. You know what, Lindy Ruff's system is very exciting. It can be very exciting when you're trying to outgun your opponents. I like the change of pace right now because it is a long season. There were things that they needed to work on even during the 13-game winning streak that they were just getting away with. Let that be in the playoffs when there's no time to make adjustments. And I agree with you. I think another thing, too, is Nathan Bastian's absence. It exposed the Devils a little bit. But I honestly think that if you can learn how to play efficient during the regular season and catch them by surprise during the playoffs, I think you can cruise through round one. I think you can really cruise it. It's a long to get to win the Stanley Cup. It's a long, 4 rounds, so to speak.
Well, who if the season is today, who they'd be playing in round one.
Well, I don't know. I haven't checked the standings.
The Rangers.
Oh, well. Yeah, and that's nice. But getting to my point, sorry, I'm going
you're fine.
around and round in circles here. But what was I going to say? Sorry, I always lose my train of thought.
Getting back to your point.
Yeah, getting back to my point about the Devils. But, look, it's kind of like NASCAR or auto racing. You just try to keep pace during the regular season. Just like, in an auto racing, for the first 249 laps. You just try to keep within striking distance. And then in the end, you're full throttle. Nobody full throttles better than the Devils. Maybe the Edmonton Oilers. Maybe. Because they're fast. But full throttle, Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, we saw a glimpse of it sustained during that 13-game, or I like to say 18-game winning streak, but you know how the refs were. It's exciting. So could they turn it on in the playoffs? Is the playoffs a different animal where they can't? I'm actually very pleased that they're not running on all cylinders and high RPMs this time of year. I think
what else
is April. Sorry. Go ahead.
You know what else it shows? You're going to have to learn. Like, the Lightning don't play the same style every night. The the Bruins don't play the same style every night. These teams that are in it every year don't play the same style.
No.
They adjust to their opponents. And the best teams can do that. And the reason that the Lightning can do that is because they got guys like Stamkos and Kucherov and Hedman who can play multiple different styles. They are superstars of the superstar class. Some of the best players in the game, all playing on one team. Braden Point, you got to put in that category too. And the Devils have the right superstar pieces to do that, right? They have Hughes who can do that. He can play multiple different styles and still be dynamic. You have Nico Hischier, who's probably the most fluid player the Devils have on the team. You have Jesper Bratt, who's, despite his struggles right now, and I think his struggles are very mental, but despite his struggles, has shown in the past that he can do that. You have Igor Sharangovich, who's shown in the past he can do that. Hasn't as much this year. He's been kind of hamstrung just on a line where, his main focus this year is penalty killing. He's kind of Jimmy Vici this year. It's weird. But he's a guy who has changed his style of play, what he's playing with Jack Hughes. And then you got Tatar, who I think Tatar struggles with that a little bit more than other players on this team. But the main crux of the Devils' struggles has been secondary scoring, right? Jack Hughes has been phenomenal. And Nico Hischier hasn't been at the pace that he was. He's not at a 90-point pace anymore. He's still at a 77-point pace. That's anybody. If I told you 33 games 37 games in the season, if I told you that Nico Hischier was at a 77-point pace, you take that in spades. But when you look at the rest of the team, Miles Wood hasn't scored in, I think, over a month. That fourth line looks just despondent. They've tried different things. They tried Zetterlund on that line. I thought it was a good idea. It didn't really work. Now they're trying. You're muted, by the way. They tried Alexander Holtz. They tried a couple other people.
I hate this automatic mute button. It worked last week. It doesn't work this week. Anyway, it's typical of fourth liners to have their peaks and valleys, ups and downs during the regular season. I mean, we've seen that over the years with the New Jersey Devils, the fourth line. It's just a matter of will they turn it up when it counts late March into April into the playoffs. I'm not worried about that. I really am not. If maybe they're, again, they're saving themselves. Who knows? I don't think they're really doing that. But you remember the old Devils where it was all about timely goal scoring and the fourth line, the crash line. When the playoffs came, that's when they really trapped. During the season, it was kind of like loosey-goosey at times. But once it came to the playoffs under Jacques Lemaire specifically, I would say Larry Robinson to some extent, that's where they really, really clamped it down, like clutch and grab, like they really were on their A game. So, it's a different level of focus in the playoffs. I just can't wait to see the Devils in the playoffs using that elite speed 60 minutes because they're so fired up. Like how fast, like teams may not be able to catch up. That's how good they are.
Do you want this team to make a trade?
What's that? Sorry.
Do you want this team to make a trade?
If it doesn't jeopardize the future, yes.
What's jeopardizing your opinion?
Alexander Holtz.
So Holtz is untouchable. If I told you could get Timo Meier for Holtz in a first, you'd say no.
Yeah, I would say no. Because you've got the draft class coming up. Not draft class, the free agent class coming up very soon. I don't think there's a need right now. to make a trade like that. Because I don't think
Yeah.
this is a Stanley Cup winning team right now. If you were in serious, like if you were like Carolina Hurricanes, it's one thing where they're at in their franchise, but with the Devils, there's no need for it, especially when you've got some young studs coming up very soon on defense. All that. I just don't think. I don't think right now is the time to put the chips all in. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not exciting what I just said.
I'm definitely going to write about 600 different. I'm going to write 600 different trade pieces for the end of the, before the trade deadline. But I see where you're coming from. I just don't. I don't agree if it's the right piece. Timo Meier is very complicated because you have to pay him a $10 million qualifying offer at the end of the year. $10 million. Like, that's, and I'm looking at the free agent class, and, like, the best piece in the free agent class is David Pastrnak, but I don't think he's going to make it. And if he does, do you know what the number is that they're talking about for him to resign?
What's that number?
$11 million a year.
That's a lot of money.
And he's probably worth it, right? He's one of the best scorers in the game. He's like maybe the most incredible next to Ovechkin at his very specific line of work. But I don't know if you can do that if you're the Devils. Can you pay somebody $11 million when you got Hughes? You got to sign Bratt. Listen, you sign Pastrnak, and you're immediately a Stanley Cup contender. But what is the, how much better does Pastrnak make the Devils? Like, if Pastrnak and keeping Holtz over, Meier, but getting the extra, I really can't see Timo Meier making more than 8 on an average. Right? Even though he's getting that $10 million qualifying offer, I just can't see him making that. But who knows? And that's the thing, is that improving this team in the future is the big question. Is that what do you do now? Do you go after Ryan O'Reilly or Vladimir Tarasenko, who are true rentals and now injured, by the way?
Yeah.
Both of them.
Damaged goods. Damaged goods.
So you hope that, I think O'Reilly has a broken hand, which I feel like you're going to fully heal from. And I forget what Tarasenko has, but I think it was. The problem with Tarasenko is that he's getting evaluated in a month, or 4 weeks technically. So he's not even coming back in 4 weeks. So he's going to be much closer to the deadline. I think O'Reilly is a 4 to 6 week timeline, so you expect him back within a month. I'm on the fence. I keep going back and forth, and and all this was spurned by a conversation today, which I think is asinine, where somebody said that the Devils should offer Jesper Bratt, Alex Holtz, plus more to get Leon Drycell. Now, Leon Drycell is a phenomenal player. Phenomenal. But you're talking about a guy who's 2 years left on his contract after this year, who he's an upgrade. Definitely an upgrade to Bratt, but he's been playing on a very interesting team for a long time. And you're going to have to pay him $10 to $12 million a year in just 2 years if you want to keep him. And you're giving up the bag, like one of the biggest packages for a superstar we've ever seen. Trading Jesper Bratt, Alex Holtz, and I'm assuming a first-round pick would be the other piece. It's talking about that. That's too wild of a package. And I get it. There's a lot of frustration with Bratt, but I got to remind you, He's been eligible for an extension for 3 days. 3 days, and we're already frustrated. So it's. Let's calm down with Jesper Bratt. This fan base is just so.
You know what? This fan base, you got to appreciate what you have, too. Sometimes it's addition by subtraction, addition by doing nothing. I mean, I honestly think that they could wait another year, maybe 2, to get that real superstar to New Jersey. We talked about this on Game Day Live earlier about Jack Hughes, and right now he's a 40-40 guy. He's on pace to be 40-40, but I think he has the potential to be a 60-60 player in the right year with the right players.
I don't think he can score 60, but
I think he can.
Too much has to go right.
Yeah, well,
who's the last player to score 60?
But listen, you got to listen. It's got to be the perfect storm. I think with this defense, the way the future is, if, again, they can really stretch the ice 3-5 years down the road once Luke Hughes and Nemitz have developed, Dougie Hamilton will still be on the team. It could be really interesting where Jack Hughes goes, with this. He's definitely going to be 100 points. Definitely he's going to be in the 100 points. We'll shoot there, but I'm talking potential, like his high-end potential. Could he actually do it? I think he can. I really think he can.
But who was the last player to score 60?
Well, on the Devils, it never happened.
No, in general.
In general? Is it Ovechkin?
Did Ovechkin ever get to 60?
Or was it Austin Matthews? Was it Austin Matthews?
Oh, did he get 60?
Yeah. I think it was Austin Matthews last year.
I'm going to look it up real quick. But I that's just too... You have to be so focused on just scoring, and I think he's going to do... He got exactly 60 last year. 60 in 73 games. That's just ridiculous. I just don't see it because I think he's going to... This isn't how you want Jack Hughes to play. How Jack Hughes is... And I wrote about this. I don't know if you saw my article about whether Jack Hughes really was a 40-goal scorer or not. Can he score 40 goals? Does he have the ability to score 40 or 50 if he wants to? He does, because he makes his own plays. He can shoot really well. He's got... I mean, he doesn't even have that hard of a shot, but his accuracy is... he might be one of the most accurate shooters in the game. Not might be. He's definitely one of the most accurate shooters in the game when he wants to be. He shoots a lot, so he's never going to have a top shooting percentage, but if you give him any space, he's going to pick a corner. So I get where you're coming from, but I just think that 60 is just too...
Just remember this, and I'm going to write this down, that we had this conversation, so when it does happen, I can be like, let's go to the videotape. Just remember this. What transformed Jack Hughes to be Jack Hughes right now? It wasn't the Gato. Remember a couple years ago, Jack Hughes' success is to be shoot first. And now he's shooting first. It has opened up his game completely. Back in the day when he was smaller, not, not with, 148 pounds? I don't know what he was. Rookie year.
He was tiny.
Yeah, he was too much of a playmaker. I think Jack Hughes is more effective when he shoot first because it just opens up everybody. It opens up his line mates. Just all the attention's on him. And you know what? The fact that he can be a playmaker But I think if he has that shoot first mentality, and that's why, particularly why I think he can get 60. Will he? Who knows? I mean, that's anybody's guess. But he would have to play 82 games, full 82 games. It'd have to be a perfect storm. It's going to be a lot of cherry picking. He's going to get a lot of goals that way with the speed, north-south. You know, when his brother, you know, has that home run pass, stick to stick, tape to tape, and he's gone. It's going to be that type of, you know, and they're going to have to skate. You know, it's. But hey, I just want to get to a question, Max. Sam and Nick, does Holtz slot in with Palat and Hughes when he comes back?
No.
I agree.
I'll go into it. I understand why people want this. The H2O line was phenomenal in the preseason. It did not work in the regular season. Holtz has had so much trouble keeping up with the pace of the game in general, the NHL, putting him on the fastest player on your team, putting him on his line, you're basically – people want Holla off Hughes' line because Holla can't shoot, or he just hasn't had luck with shooting, or whatever the case may be. He hasn't finished at all. That's why you want Holla off his line. If you put Holtz on Hughes' line, you'll get a finisher who can't keep up with him. So, same church, different pew. And when it comes to Palat, I still feel like you want Palat to be the guy who can play on all lines. And if you stick him on that first line, yeah, he's making $6 million a year. You want him to be able to do that. But you know
I'm
what?
going to say something controversial here. I wouldn't mind him being on the third line.
That's exactly kind of where I'm going at.
Oh, okay.
I think that he should be on the third line.
Yeah, and again, it's not a demotion. Okay, any hockey coach will ever tell you that the best players you put on the ice are the ones that are already out there. Like those are your best players. That depth, I'm telling you, if the Devils can figure out their bottom six when Palat comes back, if you put him on the third line and then Bastian is back with that fourth line, that you can roll four lines in the playoffs. You can roll.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be unbelievable. I mean, right now they're not running on all cylinders right now, and I think they're playing pretty well. And I think the top six is not the issue. I think that third line was an issue last season. It's kind of an issue now, but you know, again, it's a long season. When they can roll four lines, we saw it in that 18-game stretch. They're unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable, and they could play that game. They could play that fast-paced game that you were talking about. That's not sustainable in an 82-game season. But we're talking about playoffs.
You have more off days in the playoffs. You're not doing back-to-backs in the playoffs. Yep. There's a lot to your advantage. I'm trying to think. Oh man, Holtzy. Oh, Holtzy got a big assist. All right, there you go. 3-0 Devils. You like to see that.
It's on a delay on my screen. Thanks a lot.
Sorry, buddy.
Thanks a lot. You just you spoiled it for me. I don't know. A guy named Mike just scored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I look at the lines, here's what I would want. Fully healthy, I want. Top line, I want Hughes, Bratt, Sharangovich. The problem is then Hughes has to win a faceoff. You kind of have to figure that out. If you want to keep the Holla thing, then you do, I think you do Holla, Hughes, and Sharangovich. So I guess that you can do that. I really hate that. I really hate having Holla on the line, but I get why they're doing it. Possession is the most important part of Lindy Ruff system.
I'm going to say again another controversial thing. I think Holla amongst the Devils fans is so unappreciated. I'm telling you that Holla may not be getting the puck in the net now, but down the stretch, he's doing all the dirty work. He's doing all the right things except for finishing. Eventually that will come. Right now, we're not seeing the fruit. I'd rather have him miss the net 15,000 times through game 82. But when that round one, home game one, whatever that game is, Holla will show up. It almost reminds me of Claude Lemieux a little bit. Just during the regular season, Claude Lemieux will have come flashes, whatever, and then come playoffs, it's just like night and day. That's what I'm predicting. I'm making a lot of bold statements today.
You are. So let's say it's Holla, Hughes, Sharangovich. All right. Well, I call that a Sidney Crosby style line, where Crosby is one of the best players in the league. He's playing with two players that aren't even the second and third best player on his team. But it works because you go for four lines. And then your second line would be Tatar, Hischier, and Bratt, right? And you could do a third line of Palat. I have to change it up now because I had Hull on that line. So it would be Palat, Mercer. I'm missing somebody. Because the fourth line is going to be what it was. Wood, McLeod, and Zetterlund. So Zetterlund will be on that third line. So you got Mercer, Mercer, Palat, and Zetterlund. I think Mercer and Palat could make magic together. I think Mercer's just been in this weird spot. He's been in no man's land for a long time. And I think you put him with Palat and they'll really unlock each other. And then Zetterlund, you got to find a spot on the team for him. He's just got to figure him out because he's been quiet for a while, and it's because he's been on this no man's land third line. And then the fourth line is what it was, Boquist, the BMW line, Boquist, McLeod.
To tell you the truth, I wouldn't mind a Palat, Holla, Zetterlund line, to be honest with you.
I feel like I really want Mercer and Palat together. I like how their games complement each other. I want to see what that looks like.
Fair enough. You can always shuffle
if you want
the
to do
lines.
Holla, Zetterlund, Mercer, I'd be willing to listen to it. I don't think it works as well as the other version I had of it. And you could always move Tatar down. I don't think Tatar is as effective on the third line, but he hasn't earned himself a place on the second line over the past 10 games. I think that'll change. But there's a lot. There's a lot here. And the Devils have been playing much better over the past 2 weeks. And I wrote about this. Did you see this story, Sam, that I did on December and the Devils' issues in December?
No.
Okay. So for the past 5 years, the Devils have won an average of like 3 games in December.
Oh, yeah, I remember. I remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
Up until Christmas, they won an average of 3 games. After Christmas, prior to the season, they've lost 1 game from 2017 to now. So I guess now they lost 2. One was in overtime. It was the Damon Severson own goal against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the other one was Boston this year. So prior to this year, they hadn't lost a regulation game between New Year's and Christmas for 5 years. And if you remember, the Devils have much better Januaries than they do Decembers. The problem is that their December usually knocks them out of the race.
Yep.
Right? They'll either have poor Octobers and Novembers, or they'll have average Octobers and Novembers, and then the December slump knocks them out of the race. Well, this year's different. They won 13 games in a row in November. They only lost 1 game in the entire month of November, and it was a ridiculous game, but we don't have to get into that. And So now they're still in second place. They survived the crazy December slump. Still in second place. And everybody's like, well, the Rangers are only 2 points behind them. Yeah, but the Rangers also have 2 games at hand. And this is prior to, Wednesday night's game. So if the Devils win this, they'll be 4 points ahead of them, I think. I had to double check the standings, but this team is fine. This team is fine. I think this team is fine. I think they should make a move because there's just clearly a spot. There's a winger spot on Jack Hughes' line that just hasn't been filled, and everything we are doing is speculation of whether it'll work. Now, I hope you can find a spot for Holtz. I do. I hope you can. I don't know if it's going to happen, though. I just don't. I think when playoff time comes, I think Lindy Ruff is just going to be – he's just not going to trust them. I don't know if that's earned. Holtz is playing well tonight, but he's also taking – Holtz, for as good as the assist was, and, speaking of the devil, Holtz just scored. Damn, I'm sorry.
Oh, my gosh.
Sorry. I was talking about him. What am I supposed to do? I was talking about him, and he scores.
He just scored. He just scored on my monitor. Devils fans are doing like this.
What a shot.
Yeah.
But okay, I can't say anything. A 2-point night. Oh my God, that was just so gorgeous of a wrist shot. And look at that smile.
Did you see the flex from his blade, on the shaft of his stick? The flex. Yeah, That's just sick. That's just sick.
And so I don't want to assume anything, but let's assume the Devils win. Before we got about 5 minutes left before I have to let you go so you can prepare for the post-game show. Why are the Devils so different on the road than they are at home? Do you have any idea why this is?
I have some theories. Some of them ridiculous.
I can't figure it out.
I think they get coddled too much by the team, by the organization when they're at home. There's too many distractions. You got so many media things that they got to do. You got to do this. You got to do that. I just think it's one big distraction when they're all in the room and they're all together and they have their kumbaya moment like they did with their dads on the road. I thought it worked out well. Where they play like a team. They play like a team on the road because there are no distractions when they're at the Prudential Center. They got to talk to Amanda Stein. They got to talk to and then they got to do some promotional thing. And then, we're going to videotape you here. I think it's just honestly a distraction. That's my opinion, of course. What do I know? People will say, well, woo, you could walk and chew gum at the same time. Using that analogy. But honestly, that's how I can explain it. Because when you're on the road, you're in a hotel, not really doing that much outside of that, and you saw what happened when they brought the dads and the mentors, on the road to see. Were they on the road? They were on the road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Pittsburgh.
Yep, they were
right?
in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yep.
They were focused. I think at home, it's just a little different.
I'm just trying to that's a good idea. That's a good. The logic is there. I know
Chris Westcott wouldn't want me to say this, but I think I think they're a big distraction to the team. That's just me. Not to say that other teams don't have that, but
yeah, I understand. But it's other teams are used to that too. Yeah. They're used to the hype. They're used to the ask and the expectation. And now, there are more media members coming to New Jersey. And it is a little bit more invasive. So the Devils are 1 point ahead of the Rangers. 2 points they're 1 point ahead of the Rangers and the Capitals. And 3 points ahead of the Islanders. And they're 5 points from being out of the playoffs entirely. Now, they have 2 games at hand of the Rangers, 3 games at hand of Washington, and 2 games at hand of the Islanders. And then them and Pittsburgh both have 37 games. So after they play tonight, they'll have played 38 games, and they'll have a 3-point lead on the Rangers and the Capitals and a 5-point lead on the Islanders and a 7-point lead on the Pittsburgh Penguins. That looks a lot better, especially when you have a game at hand on most of them. Or most of them have a game on hand of you. Or whatever, however the saying is supposed to go. This Devils team, and I know a lot of people argued. Some people argue. I think a lot of people argue the other way. This Devils team was still playing well in December. I agree to a point. They were incredibly unlucky. But you can't keep scoring 1 goal and expect to win. Even 2 goals. Like, that's eventually going to, you're going to run out of steam with that. And you couldn't, the goaltending wasn't playing as well. It was a myriad of problems. But to finish off tonight, I think this team is in a good spot. Outside of the injuries, you need Marino back. That one's huge. That one's going to really round out this defensive lineup again as it's played better. They're giving up chances in their own zone, but they're not giving up 2-on-1s. So, not great, but definitely not nearly as bad as it was. And then their offense is finding holes. It's finding space. I'm curious to look at the numbers. I don't have the computer right in front of me, so I'll have to look at it later. But while the Devils are down 20-27 in shots right now, I'm curious to see what the high danger chances looks like and quality shots. Like, are they taking the better shots? And the eye test tells me it's about even. So there is some luck involved in this, and also, Vitek Vanacek has really played well tonight. You kind of hope to see the same thing out of Blackwood tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming you get it, right? You got to get Blackwood tomorrow against St. Louis, right? Back to back on the road.
You have to. Vanacek, again, if you look at some of the stats from his entire career, once you start to get overworked, his performance goes down a little bit.
Yeah. And that also happened. He got overworked in November.
Yes.
And his play disintegrated in December. Seems like he's back to at least 90% of what he was, 85%, 90% of what he was, but he was one of the best in the league in November. Now he's a top 15, top 20 goalie, and that's all the Devils need. But but that's all I got, Sam. I'll do my plugs. Right now we have a couple interesting articles. We have one by David Williams talking about Miles Wood and just kind of his disappearing act and why he's so important to this team. And then you have I wrote a piece on Kevin Ball and just how he's just kind of squandering an opportunity here, and his numbers just haven't been that good. I wrote a piece on Damon Severson. I wrote that piece on Jack Hughes and being a 40-goal scorer. Jersey Joe has written a couple pieces. He just wrote one on the defensive prospects to look forward to. We always got Vinny Parisi writing. Sam went to his first New Jersey Devils game, so he kind of wrote about his experience of growing up in Southern California and how he became a Devils fan and what it was like to finally get to the Prudential Center to see his first game. So that's a fun one that's up there right now. Pucks at pitchforks.com. And then we got Vinny Parisi. I would say I'd expect a Vinny Parisi piece tonight. He hasn't told me, so I'm sorry if I'm calling him out, but I would expect a Vinny Parisi piece tonight because he's been writing about the World Juniors, and it doesn't look good for Luke Hughes. So I think that tonight is the night where it ends for Luke Hughes, which is unfortunate because this is going to be his last World Juniors. And spoiler, Sam, the referees got involved in that one as well. So looks like they're going to give it to the home team. I
DVR'd it. Stop.
We're on a podcast, Sam. You gotta.
Oh no, I'm just kidding.
You know what, Sam?
I just like to complain. That's all.
And to be fair, I haven't seen the score in a while, but last I checked, it was some bull, you know what? But that's all I got, Sam. What do you got to plug?
Me? Well, I will actually be at American Whiskey tomorrow for Devils After Dark. Short Sky will be there for Game Day Live with Vinny Parisi. Vinny Parisi and I will be remoting in, and Short Sky will be on the ground at American Whiskey before the Devils take on the St. Louis Blues. And then Saturday, beer for breakfast at American Whiskey. Matinee game, Devils Rangers. That should be a good one.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Yeah, trying something new. And also we're working on an event with Arlette next month.
Nice.
We'll let you guys know about that. The last event we had at Stagehouse Tavern in Mountainside, New Jersey, total success. Like, I'm not even... Like,
that looked like fun. You and Arlette, it looked like it was a lot of fun.
We barely promoted it, and the Devils fans showed up, so which is great. This time around, meow, meow, we're going to promote it. And also...
When is that one?
I haven't finalized the date. Sometime in February, but it's a good date. And
the best date. We have the best dates.
Yes. It's a Saturday, but yeah. Also, for all those that don't know, I've been repeating this over and over and over. I'm going on a 2-week plug. Please rate, review, and subscribe to our Apple Podcasts page. Just go to Apple Podcasts. Majority of our listeners are iPhone users, iPad users.
I know I am.
And we had a couple knuckleheads that called us jabronis. Been spamming bad reviews on our podcast page. Please give us 5 stars and write nice things about us, because we want to kind of bury that. We don't go into podcast wars with other podcasts. We don't fight other people. We try to unite people, and it's just a bad look. You know, it gives Devils fans a bad name when you write stupid things. People that hate on me, hate on Shorts Guy or Nick or whatever. Let's just try to be more positive, people. If you don't have anything nice to say it to our face and tell us how we can improve on the podcast. Be constructive, not destructive. That's all. So go to our Apple Podcast page, rate, review, and subscribe. And hopefully we can start burning some of these negativity, because we're going to need each other for the playoffs, folks. You know, it's not about the podcast being better than other podcasts or you know, whatever. Just be nice to everybody. That's all. But if you want to bash a Rangers podcast, you're more than welcome to. I don't care about that.
How do you even rate these things?
Oh, I'll have to show you. I mean, it's just, you know, you log in. Let's see here. You go to podcasts, and then you go to the podcast, and you give it 5 star, and then you can write a review. You got to give it 5 star first.
You're just going to have to show me.
Yeah. Now, according to a source, Mrs. Wu, that the reviews and the 5 stars or whatever don't show up quickly. They're not in real time. So just be aware of that. So be patient. Wait a week.
Oh, I found it.
Yeah, write a review. It's a little confusing. But that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to drop the podcast at midnight. Devils After Dark, after the game. Scotty at SiriusXM, Liquid Metal, and I will recap the game that was. Not going to spoil it for you, like some people. But anyway.
All right, guys.
Yeah, just kidding around, Nick. You know I'm just joking. All right, hitting the music. And next week, we'll debut the new bumper, intro, outro of the State of the Fan Address. Go to pucksandpitchforks.com. for all your Devils needs. Till next time, let's go Devils.